Think about the last time you genuinely stopped caring. Not the dramatic kind. Not the angry kind. Just stopped. No more arguments. No more waiting by the phone. No more explaining yourself. Just nothing. A lot of people call that peace. Some call it growth. Some call it finally moving on. But here's what no one tells you. That feeling? That hollow, quiet, I don't feel much about anything anymore? That's not peace. That's your nervous system waving a white flag. You know the person I'm describing? Maybe you are that person right now. The one who used to cry at movies and now just watches. The one who used to care deeply about a relationship. And one day realized they couldn't even summon the energy to be angry anymore. The one who texts back lol or yeah, because forming a real sentence feels like lifting something heavy. There's a word for that moment, when the caring just drains out. We call it emotional shutdown. And it's one of the most misunderstood states a human being can be in. Here's what most people think emotional shutdown is: coldness, indifference, maybe even cruelty. They think the person who shut down chose to stop caring, that they decided one day to just not give a damn. But that's almost never what happened. Emotional shutdown isn't the absence of feeling. It's what happens after too much of it. The person who says, "I don't care anymore," usually used to care so much it broke something. They tried, they hoped, they explained, they waited, and waited, and waited. And then one day, quietly, without drama, something inside them just went offline. Let's go to the nervous system for a second, because this is where the story actually starts. You've probably heard of fight or flight. The stress response: adrenaline, heart rate up, body ready to act. What's less talked about is the third option: freeze. When the threat is emotional, not physical, the nervous system still runs the same software. You fight, you argue, you confront, you push back. You flee, you distance yourself, you go quiet, you avoid. But when neither of those works, when the fighting just leads to more pain and the fleeing doesn't make it stop, the body shifts into freeze mode. And in emotional shutdown, that stillness looks like numbness, flatness, detachment, a kind of exhaustion that isn't about sleep. Psychologists have a name for the emotional version of this: emotional exhaustion. It's the same core mechanism as burnout, except instead of a job draining you, it's a relationship. Or years of invalidation. Or being the only one who tried. Researcher Martin Seligman studied something called learned helplessness. The short version: when people repeatedly try to change a painful situation and fail, they eventually stop trying. Not because they're weak, because their brain learned that effort doesn't change outcomes. Why keep running toward a door that won't open? And sometimes, in cases of chronic emotional pain, the brain does something even more dramatic. It creates distance between you and your own feelings. Psychologists call this dissociation. It's the brain saying, these emotions are too much. I'm going to turn the volume down, not off, just way down. So when someone seems emotionally flat, disconnected, fine about things they should feel deeply, there's a good chance that's not emptiness. That's protection. Here's a number that stopped me when I first read it. In studies on emotional labor, the mental work of managing your own feelings for the sake of others, people who chronically suppress their emotions show measurably reduced connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. What does that mean in plain language? The bridge between I feel something and I understand what I feel gets worn down. Over time, emotionally shut down people aren't just numb to others' feelings. They start losing access to their own. It's not dramatic. It's quiet, gradual, like a dimmer switch slowly turning down. And here's the part that makes emotional shutdown genuinely serious. Numbness doesn't just block pain. It also blocks joy. When you go offline emotionally to survive one person, one relationship, one long chapter of feeling too much, you don't get to pick what stays and what goes. You can't numb grief while keeping wonder. You can't turn off heartbreak while leaving excitement intact. The dimmer switch affects everything. That's why emotionally shut down people often describe life feeling kind of gray. Not sad, not happy, just flat. Nothing excites them. Nothing really hurts them either. They go through the motions, they show up, they function. But somewhere along the way they stopped feeling fully alive. And from the outside, that can look like peace. It can look like maturity, unbothered, zen, even. Inside, it's usually just exhaustion in a very quiet costume. There's an important distinction I want to draw here because it matters. Emotional shutdown is not the same as healthy emotional regulation. Healthy detachment looks like, I can feel this without being consumed by it. I'm aware. I'm calm. I'm still here. Emotional shutdown looks like, I can't really feel this at all. I don't know if I care. I've kind of stopped trying. One is regulated, present, grounded. The other is exhausted, absent, disconnected. One chooses where to invest emotional energy. The other has no energy left to invest. They can look almost identical from the outside. That's what makes this so easy to misread. So if you're watching this and recognizing yourself, what now? First, just knowing this is not weakness, it's not apathy. It's not a character flaw. Emotional shutdown is a response, a protective response. Your nervous system did what it was designed to do. It protected you when the pain got to be too much. That's not something to be ashamed of. That's survival. But here's the thing about survival states. They're meant to be temporary. The freeze is supposed to thaw. The numbness is supposed to lift. And sometimes it does on its own, when the environment changes. When the source of chronic pain is removed. When someone finally feels safe enough to feel again. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes shutdown goes on so long it starts to resemble something else. Low-grade depression, anhedonia, a persistent loss of interest in things that used to matter. And that's not something to wait out. That's something to get support for. The research points to a few things. Safety first. Emotional thawing happens in safe environments. Not in the same conditions that cause the freeze. Gentle re-engagement. Not forcing feelings, just noticing them. Even small ones. Even neutral ones. Somatic work. Because shutdown lives in the body as much as the mind. Breath work, movement, therapy that addresses the nervous system directly. Connection. Real, non-performative connection. With someone who doesn't need you to be okay. Shutdown isn't permanent. But it does need acknowledgement. You can't heal something you've been taught to call strength. They tried and cried and explained. And hoped. And their system finally said, enough. Emotional shutdown isn't a personality trait. It's not coldness. It's not indifference. It's not strength. It's what happens at the end of a very long story where someone gave everything they had to something or someone that kept asking for more. And if that's you, if some part of you has gone quiet in a way that doesn't quite feel like peace, I hope this helped you name it. Because naming it is the first step back. If this resonated, share it with someone who might need it. And I'll see you in the next one.